Here we go. Here we are. Thanks very much for joining me, guys. So I've invited you all to give my little game a test. So this is the Spy game. This is 5th edition OGL. So it's using the SRD for 5e rules. And basically, I've been developing that with the theme of spy adventures, stuff like anything from your kind of Mission Impossible, like action adventure, high octane thrillers kind of thing, to like your really kind of hard boiled noir detective stories and that kind of thing. And I'm hoping to develop that in the terms of a kind of toolkit for that. So this is kind of the first like public outing it's had. I've had an alpha team on this for a little bit, just testing out the very kind of basic stuff. But I haven't yet had a Bravo team. So welcome to Bravo team.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
We have all kind of met just now, but how about we go around just kind of introduce ourselves again and kind of have a little chat about what we've got going on. Charlie, thank you so much for joining me. Who are you? What are you doing on the internet? And like, what have you got coming up this week and what you've been looking forward to and stuff?
Oh, wow. Who am I? I'm an ex-theatre student. I'm Charlie. I'm at Frost from Fire on the Twitters. I play in a whole host of games during the week. I have a pinned tweet that explains it all. But Sunday is like my day, so I'm really excited to be getting to play a spy game. I always wanted to play a spy game.
Cool.
And now I'm playing the spy game. But after this, I am going to be DMing for, I forget what title I gave myself, the Cypher system running over on WebDM. I'm excited to do that too, because we're playing vampires in the 80s. So yeah, it's all the like pulpy and fun stuff today.
Yeah, I love Lost Girls, man. I'm such a fan.
Aww,
I just have it on, and like a couple of weeks ago, like I was just writing away and you guys were on that, and it was just great to kind of hear along to what you guys were playing. It's such a fun little game.
Thanks. That's what I aim for. I just want it to be kind of fun, and you can tune into any episode and kind of pick up what's going on, because we've got such distinct characters from everyone. We've got the time-traveling vampire, we have the nerdy vampire, we've got the classic Lost Boys wild child vampire, we have a Russian spy vampire, which, I mean, the crossover.
Segue there, man. That's brilliant.
Right. So yeah, it's me on Sundays.
Cool. Oz, I'm so happy you took up my invitation to come and join me on this one.
Thank you. It's an honour to be here.
Oh, that's quite all right, man. What have you been up to lately, and what are you looking forward to and stuff? What have you got going on?
Well, I've been mostly running some online role-playing games on my own channel, and getting ready to get some writing done for role-playing games. In theory, I'm meant to be creating YouTube videos, trying to help people level up their skills at role-playing, but that, of course, with any part-time projects, it's on the wayside while I try and make time for it.
Yeah, I feel that.
And yeah. I'm currently very excited about this game, trying to work out what kind of character I want to play. From what I've seen, it looks really good.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Hey V, how are you since Friday? You good?
Hey, I'm okay. I'm not well, but it's
you're not?
fine.
Do you know, I came away from that game and then I woke up and suddenly a thing in the back of my throat and a cough and all sorts.
Yeah, no, I've had exactly the same thing. So
RPG hangovers are real.
Virginia is today sponsored by cold and flu relief medicine.
Oh.
But yeah, I work with Sam over at Modifius, kind of making games and doing fun stuff. But I also play games on the internet now, because that's a thing. So Apps and Cthulhu on Fridays. We do D&D on Thursdays when we can. And otherwise, I can be found at the Roleplay Haven running games there as well. And you can tweet at me at Tabletop Horde on Twitter. Come and say hi. I post about games and ask people random questions. So
awesome sauce.
Pretty much me.
So I beamed these chapters over to you guys not so long ago. So I did that kind of on purpose because I didn't want you guys to have too much time to be able to get acquainted with the stuff. So the main test I want to do today is I want to go through character creation. I want you guys to lead it, and I want to find out whether the comprehension of it makes sense, and also whether the process works, feels comfortable, feels appropriate, thematic as well, maybe. So any kind of feedback along those lines would be great. And then maybe a bit later on as well, depending on how long we go, just a maximum of a couple of hours, as I said, we try and break some stuff too, and see where I've there's massive oversights in my working out. But it's 5e, so hopefully should hang together pretty well.
Yeah.
Cool. So on my stream, I'm sharing up the character creation thing at the moment, just on the first page. But like I said, I'm not going to guide you guys through this the first time because I want you guys to try and do it how it runs rather than my expectation of how it runs. So feel free to have a chat, work together. I'd really appreciate for the video as well if you guys kind of talk through a little bit of your thinking and also about the process. So if someone again, I'm not telling you how to do it, but if someone kind of reads out the first bit maybe and then you have a chat or whatever, like if someone wants to take the lead on reading a bit and we can switch around and stuff, it's totally up to you guys. And in fact, now I'm probably just going to shut up and it's over to you.
Well, I'm happy to read. I know Virginia's not feeling very well.
This is true.
Sympathy on poor Virginia's voice. So I'll just scroll up. I'm happy to read through the page 1, creating the character outline, and then we can probably go from there.
Yeah. Do we want to read the whole thing kind of verbatim, or I'm looking through this, and when I run through a role-playing game, I'm very
step
picky.
by step.
Yeah, I'm very jump between sections-y. So
yeah, I'm the same.
Because it was pick your class, and instantly my brain knew what that meant, and I was like, "What are the classes?"
Okay, so I'll read that section, and then we can go look at classes then, and then we can bounce back and forth. All right. So, creating a character. Once you have decided on a concept for your character, oops, we haven't done that yet. All right, we've already missed instruction number 1.
Yeah.
Is anyone going into this with a concept?
I was thinking that I wanted to create somewhat of a follower character, specifically I don't want to say like a brute, but very much sort of ex-SAS spy, either depending on how we can create characters, either going in with a couple of things they hit people with, kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. style 2 tonfas, or it's either that or tons of armor and an assault rifle, one of the two.
Kind of like either heavy armor sniper or fighter, melee, Cav McGraw.
I didn't want to do sniper too much because what I don't want to do is create a character and then be like, I'll be over there in that nest.
Don't forget, snipers have to have a good team. A sniper is never on its own, needs a spotter.
And I mean, I could spend the entire time just being sarcastic over the radio. That's entirely a possibility.
It's entirely possible. I mean,
I would look forward to that.
I feel like spies have a multitude of skills in addition to their sniping. So I'm sure there would be other situations and other skills you would pick up even as a sniper.
Yeah. So yeah.
Not that I'm pushing you to be a sniper, but okay. So you're kind of going fighter, specialized fighter.
Yeah.
Not high charisma face.
Yeah, definitely not face. I'd prefer someone to lead that.
Okay. What about you, Virginia? Did you have any character ideas?
A little bit. I'm stealing a bit because Sam recommended the film Atomic Blonde to me, and there's this great moment that Sam picked out where they're fighting in this room, all hand to hand, and they're both exhausted. I was thinking of going for that kind of very hand-to-hand, combat-y, small arms, close-up kind of spy.
Quick, sneaky.
Likes to get right in there and just deal with stuff.
Gets it done. Yeah.
Would the modern analogy be like the Black Widow, kind of?
Yeah, kind of like Natasha Romanoff kind of thing.
To kind of get in, disable, get out.
Yeah. And
we'll brutalize you if you keep her there. Kill Bill.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the idea of kind of small arms and hand-to-hand stuff over kind of rifles and things like that. So small arms, knives, handguns, that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
What were you thinking, Charlie?
Now, I was thinking, I went more, when I was first spy games, I wanted to be a 60s spy, very pulpy. She looks like a woman from The Office, but she knows where the documents are, and she knows the people, and she knows how to hook up a bug and tap your phone lines and just that sort of spy, the lipstick turns out to be something gadgety, but not a high combat spy. Definitely more of a, she gets the documents and she runs, or
I'm trying to stop myself because you guys are just ticking the class boxes for me at the moment.
The poison and gets out of there.
So
I guess more of a face comparative to.
Yeah, I'm seeing also infiltrator, like that ticks both of those boxes.
Yeah, I guess if I was thinking D&D classes, because I haven't looked at this class this yet, but I was like, if I was going to build that in D&D, I would be looking at something like Bard with Warlock. Your patron hooks you up with little extra things you can do, but you're relying on your bag of tricks to deceive, to change yourself, and manipulate, that sort of thing. So with our concepts discussed, obviously anything can change as we read the rest of Sam's wonderful work here. Use the following steps to bring them to life. You'll need a character sheet, which everyone has.
Yep.
Okay. Which can be found at the back of this book, or freely available online, blah, blah, blah. As you make your way through the steps of character creation, you'll need to record the information on the sheet. Step 1, pick your class. Take a look at the different character classes available to you, and with your fellow players, decide what type of character you'd like to play. A character's class represents their profession and role in the team, like a soldier or technician. As this is a new character, assume they start their career at first level, noting down all the information on the page. As they have enough experience points, XP, for completing missions, they go up in the, you might want to fix that sentence.
They were bad at it.
Go up in their class levels, granting them new powers and abilities. That was me playtesting my game yesterday. I suddenly realized half my sentences didn't quite make sense.
This is not proofread, guys. It's
Okay.
self-edited.
So, Oz, would you like to introduce us to the class options?
Okay, so the main classes appear to be, going from the top, the face. This appears to be very much a sort of this is an intelligence agent. This is a manipulator. This is a person who operates under, well, it states in the sort of archetypes for them that they operate under different covers, or that they know how to have charisma and misdirect people and get somewhere through, what's the term, social engineering. So they'll be able to talk their way in. It also describes them as somewhat of a jack of all trades. So they have like a wide variety of skills, none that they're a master of in terms of technical skills. So all their skills are personable. Then after that, you've got the, scrolling down, the infiltrator. This would be this would be the sneaky individual, thief, assassin style. Oh, actually, that's the two archetypes. Thief, assassin are the two things going here. So sneak in, sneak out. Either don't let anybody see that you've been there, or let one person see you've been there, very much so. And then we've got the martial artist, hand to hand. You've actually gone with kind of key here. So you've got either literal or sort of figurative. If I use the term woo, is that okay? For like, pseudo magical or magical, depending on how you want to theme it, abilities, up to and including, dodging bullets or blocking bullets, and lots of unarmed combat or use of little pieces of equipment. So the styles are Shaolin style, Krav Maga. Oh, I see. So you've got the Jackie Chan.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
And then you've got the
what's that movie with James McAvoy where they literally bent bullets?
Oh yeah. Yes, I know what you mean.
It was the comic as well.
James McAvoy, just bullet bending, just throw the gun because that's how physics works.
Yeah,
physics kids.
But yeah, Krav Maga's the anybody in a Western modern style. So all the fighting people in, or I use
Israeli martial arts.
Yeah, it's what everybody learns these days because it's because it's cool and effective.
Mhm.
Then there's the Ranger. I didn't expect that to see that word in here. That's interesting. So we've got the person who is outdoorsy still. So it looks like snipers, maybe.
This is your true kind of SAS.
Yeah, okay, that would be that. Yeah, so tracking and fighting people down. Oh, so like guerrilla fighters, people who are outdoors.
Or I guess when you get like the James Bond like snowmobile scenes, or you get
those guys,
Predator type scenes, I guess. Because that's definitely a spy's job, like especially if you're in enemy hostile territory, you get dropped in like Tears of the Sun when Bruce Willis goes in.
Yeah,
like under the cover, hostile territory.
Oh, it's the guy in Predator, as you said, the guy with the wide brimmed hat who protects the other guy from the scorpion that's in front of him and stuff like that. Knows the outdoors.
That's really exciting. I hadn't thought about like what if we ended up like in a jungle. I hadn't thought about that, but I really want to play spies in a jungle now.
But this has like for the guerrilla fighter, it's got things like improvised explosive devices. Oh god, I haven't had to deal with explosive devices in 5th ed. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Then you've got the survivalist, so the person who's going to keep everybody else alive while we're outside. Finally, there's the soldier, the quintessential heavy. So it's like tactical armor, stab vests, shields, and pistols or assault rifles. Very much a blunt instrument. This one, and they choose from the beginning like a type of attack and a type of role. So you've got explosives, marksman, 2-weapon fighting, etc. But then the archetypes are platoon leader, who tells other people what to do, how to attack, that kind of thing. Or you've got the assault, which is just straight up, I'm gonna explode some heads kind of person.
I love it.
There's an enforcer as well. So this one has 3.
Okay.
A trained thug favoring physical prowess and up close and personal. Okay, so you've got the distance. You've got the assault distancey one, and then you've got the enforcer, who is the closer one, and the sharpshooter. Oh my goodness, this one has 4. Okay, there you go. You've got a.
Got all the specialisms. So you got your SWAT team.
Yeah.
You got your breach and clear team.
Yep. You've got your Jason Statham.
And you've got your unit leader.
Yeah.
And I always love when there are fighter archetypes that are buffy, because I think a lot of people only ever see the fighter archetype as that either melee or ranged, and their contribution is to damage, soak, or damage deal.
Yeah.
And that's all they do.
And that's all they do. But then you've got, even within the 5e basics, the champion fighter who can do the leadership things, and it's so often overlooked. And there's that leadership feat as well, which no one ever takes. But it would make for such a good moment, 10 minutes of this person giving you their best and getting you prepared.
Yeah, like it's a fantastic opportunity for roleplay, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
There are more classes. There's the hacker. So I mean, we all know what kind of person this is. Gets in, connects to the system. They are usually quite lightly protected, but they're the person who opens every door for you. They're the person who gives you every advantage you need. All their abilities are stuff that, this is all going to be new to 5th ed stuff, so would require someone to do a good read of this. So we've got accessing things, encrypting things, decrypting things, disabling, deleting,
I guess a mechanical equivalent. This is kind of your crowd control, and this is also your rogue who's disarming traps, who's setting traps, unlocking.
Yes. It's almost the person who likes to cheat at the layout of the building you're going into. So they want to lock down the doors. It's the equivalent of the player who goes, I want to cause a cave-in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess this is like your James Bond Q as well. Like your guy who's got all of the cool
Or
things.
I guess I don't know if you guys watched Covert Affairs, but when you had Augie as the handler, sometimes he would go in and he would make things work for her when she's in different places, hacking to cameras so he could get the angle to see and do the perception test, I guess, talking D&T terms, for her to tell her, you've got a guy up there, you've got a guy down here, what you're looking for is over there.
So the archetypes for that are black hat and white hat, which I think thematically sounds awesome.
So perfect.
Um, so with the black hat one, I'm guessing it's kind of an attack versus defense style or something like that. Yeah, it's your hacking damage is more potent. If you keep accessing the same systems, you have advantage. It's keeping going into the same locations and stuff like that. White hats are security measures, protecting things, tracing things. That's interesting.
I would imagine before you chose hacker, you would have a conversation with your DM about your setting, because I can definitely see how it can apply to nearly any situation, but I think sometimes it's going to feel like more of a stretch than others.
I mean, with this system, it very much feels like you'd want that, you'd want to have that discussion because we've got. You don't want to make a sniper when you're going to be indoors all the time.
No.
Yeah.
Medic is another class, and I mean, we all get what a medic is. They're patching everybody up, looking after them. They first aid is their big deal because this isn't going to be a magic thing going on here. There's disease prevention as well.
This is super interesting to me because you always get the scenes as well where they've been suspected of being like radiationed, or they've walked into a toxin and no one knows what it is. So you get that hazmat shutdown, and that's when the medic, in the movies or in the TV show, gets their real narrative moment to come in clutch. Or they turn up on the battlefield and they're like holding someone's arm to their shoulder because they've had it blown off.
Well, the things it's talking about here are things like condition recovery, stopping people being blinded, deaf, and stunned, or when like curing disease, and that's like the doctor archetype. Then you've got biochemist, who, they create problems.
Krieger, isn't it?
This is your bio warfare.
Yeah, I'm worried about whoever picks this. This is cool.
See, I play a lot of clerics, and now I'm super excited. But I'm also like, but I really want to play that first one.
I like that medics get like the vital points thing. I like the fact that like I'm here. It's that like I'm here to help you, but I can also deal you a lot of damage.
Yeah. So the vital points is like a sneak attacky kind of thing.
Looks like
Which makes total sense because a medic should know anatomy and should know how to weaponize as much as they are using things to solve problems.
Yeah. I mean, if we are all assumed to have, a minimum amount of combat experience, etc., them knowing exactly how to almost abuse their training is disturbing, but cool for a player. So there's a technician as well. So how this is different to a hacker?
Yeah, I'm curious to see.
I'm seeing the word gadget. I'm excited now.
This is your tinker. Your tinker.
Yeah, they have 2 first level gadgets. So it's the artificer, I guess, would be the
there
analogy.
we go. That's what I was looking for. I was like, I know there's another word for it.
And you can heal objects' hit points as well. Oh, okay. So if we're going into an area and maybe sabotaging or fixing something, this is going to, I imagine, be a big part of the game.
When our tank breaks down in the middle of Moscow and we really need someone to come in and fix our treads. Yep. Shaped
charges, range extenders, overclocked gadgets, extended battery life.
What is this where we start seeing the like mech suit type spy come in?
I don't think it's a mech suit. That's not what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing little upgrades and items. There is there's the gadgeteer who I'm imagining is a Q. They've got black market contacts to get cool gadgets and stuff. Then you've got the transporter. Is this? This isn't a Jason Statham transporter. This is a this is a person who's good at vehicles. They're the getaway driver. That's
really cool because that's not something you really get in D&D in the classic fantasy settings. You don't have someone who's responsible for your horses and your escape very often. It's usually the sorcerer with their fly spell. That's usually the person who gets you out of trouble in that way. But in a modern setting, it's so much more important.
I mean, it is often the thing that is forgotten. It's like, okay, we're in there, we've done the thing, and then the GM's like, well, now what? Oh no!
How do we get out of here? We did not plan for the escape.
The building's set to blow in 30 seconds. We didn't think this through.
Exfiltration is just as important as infiltration.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be a
That should be a tagline.
italicized quote on in a little box.
It should be.
Should we get that on there? That's your flavor text right there.
Boom.
Quote
That's your
Commander
GM
Web.
text, Sam.
Yeah.
You just put in there somewhere. Just remember, they might have found a way in, and that doesn't mean they have a way out.
Yeah, lots of gym advice on the kind of anatomy of a mission and how they work. Yeah.
And that's the long list of.
Awesome.
Like it's actually. It seems shorter than the D stuff, but in honesty, I expected it to end at soldier, but then it kept going with all these sort of technical abilities.
That's really cool. With those technical abilities, are there any reskinned skills or additional skills? Because I know on other supplements I've seen skills added to a list. For example, piloting or data.
Yeah, so we are using some other skills for this. So I've added infiltration, which is the kind of it's the thought process behind doing it. So it's still got stealth, which is the physical act of trying to sneak around, but you've got infiltration as well, which is about kind of casing buildings, again thinking about getting into somewhere rather than kind of and getting out, I presume, as well. Actually, that would all come under it.
Would it be like you have a blueprint in front of you and you can ask the GM X number of questions?
Kind of akin to a survival, but was a survival with a very specific goal. That's not about tracking; it's about using it, but it's about using an information and a similar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then espionage is a new intelligence skill, in both senses of the word. That is your ability to see a pattern of information and figure out what that means in terms of your your intelligence that you're gathering. So that kind of thing. I've got insight. I'm not sure whether that's an original SRD skill or not. Yeah. I can't honestly remember. It is, yeah. So that's all about reading people and stuff. But then I've also got pilot and drive now, and they're both under wisdom, just because I think...
Ooh, instinctual.
It spoke to me that my experience of driving is predominantly about judging and anticipating situations, not necessarily the deftness of your ability to drive. While that is a factor, the most of my experience of driving, at least, is being able to judge something 200 meters away and going, I'm going to need to move here, do this, slow down, whatever. So that's where I've got them at the moment.
It is a weird marriage between the two, because if you look at high-level drivers, they want to know their airflow over a vehicle. They would know their acceleration between point A and point B is this. They would know deceleration, what point their brake kicks in. But there comes a point where their instinct has to take over, their reaction speed takes over. So, yeah, I think I would go wisdom too. I think... Yeah, you definitely have to have an education, but at a certain point, I think comes down to just doing it and going with your gut. Especially in a spy chase situation.
Yeah.
It's okay, you have a planned race circuit, you can plan, at this corner, take this apex and do blah, 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 but slamming down a set of stairs in a small European city with bikes behind you and a speedboat in front of you on the water, you've just got to kind of go with your gut and either on the gas or on the brake. Yeah,
exactly. So that's where it is for now, and I think I'm quite comfortable with it being under wisdom, both of those.
Also makes me happy because I always dump int, so I wouldn't be shit at it.
And then obviously having kept survival, I've also then added mechanics. So it's all about fixing things. And that kind of stuff. There is also, of course, info tech, which is all about, information technology, manipulating it, knowing code, and all that kind of thing. So you can imagine that's going to be the go-to skill for the hacker.
Yeah.
That is under intelligence as well. That is, I think, the main ones that are quite specific to the genre.
So with all of that in mind and discussed, Oz, which are you feeling like making today, based on your original concepts?
So based on that, I still very much want to aim towards the soldier. I think that one speaks to me. Actually, should we start by asking Sam the kind of game he's going to run?
I think that is probably a good idea.
Right now, I don't have any plot plans. We're going to be making scenarios that kind of fit what I want to test, and then also what you guys have actually created. So,
Okay.
I'm going to write from you rather than the other way around.
Okay.
We will be spies for all seasons.
Yeah.
In that case, I am gonna aim for the soldier, probably assault rifle, breach and clear up front.
And what about you, V?
I'm kind of stuck between like the martial artist or the infiltrator, because I like the look of eventually getting to like the assassin archetype, which kind of fits what I wanted in terms of being able to hit people a lot, and quite close as well.
Yeah.
Like neutralizing of people.
I would suggest this, if this was me, I would go with your infiltrator and maybe consider later down the line multi-classing if it's not giving you everything you want. Or
Yeah.
swapping
I'm thinking there might be a background that can also kind of facilitate other bits
Mm-hmm.
that I might need.
around.
So I will probably go with infiltrator. What about you, Charlie?
I really like the sound of the face. I think that's really in line with my concept. I love some of the hacker abilities. I always want to be the driver. That I don't know what it is. If I'm ever offered the opportunity to be a driver in a situation, getaway, spaceship, dinosaur, I want to be the driver. But I think I'm gonna go with face for now, and maybe if we get to play other characters, I'll make a driver down the line.
Cool. Okay.
Which leaves us, let me scroll back up and I will get to step 2.
Do we have to like fill in all this stuff on here? Probably best to like do it at the time.
Oh, we have character sheets, don't we? Yes.
Yeah.
This week sponsored by Google Sheets.
Okay, hit die.
Yeah, so step 2 will be pick your background. So that'll be our next.
So, hang on. Do we leave code names to the end or the beginning?
I think we should do them at the end when we know who our characters are.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be my preference. But if you
Sure.
already have a really cool one, then I mean, I'm not
Well,
gonna stop you.
I mean, as this, I kind of hinted at this earlier while we were offline, but the idea of the big, chunky soldier man called Armstrong, I think it fits the archetype really well.
Fill it in.
Armstrong.
Follow your truth. I am about Armstrong. So, Sam, why don't you talk to us about your favorite James Bond movie while we fill in our sheets?
Goldeneye, man. I'm an 80s baby.
Goldeneye.
So Goldeneye. I thought Brosnan was a really good James Bond, because I think he's got the kind of charisma and for even though looking back on it, that kind of trope isn't great, but his kind of sexuality and charisma is very much like it's the original guy. I was going to say Shatner. That's wrong. It's not Shatner.
Could you imagine Shatner as James Bond? That would be...
I've got Roger Moore in my head, but it's Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, thank you very much. So I think he's got the kind of charisma of Sean Connery, but he does the action scenes of like Daniel Craig, The
thing I liked about Brosnan was it was tongue in cheek. He knew like the arrogant male sexuality was kind of gross, but it was done with like the humor of, yeah, this is James Bond. This is what he's about. Yeah, he flirts outrageously with Moneypenny and, has sex with the beautiful woman in the casino. And then, makes remarks towards the Russian squeezing people's stomachs until they explode.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I will always like about James Bond, even though I dislike a lot of the tropes it represents, it doesn't present them always in a horrible way or an unbearable way. And there's a lot of fun to it.
There was still a little bit of campiness to it that now the Daniel Craig Bonds have moved away from.
Yeah.
And I enjoy them too, to be perfectly honest, but it's definitely a change in... And there was the kind of ultra campiness of the kind of 60s, 70s,
Live and let die.
When like Roger Moore was just like dumping Blofeld in a big like tower at the beginning of a film. Just be like, yeah, I'm just throwing you off the helicopter. Bye. It was like, okay, great. Yeah, those I don't really go back to. I enjoyed the original Sean Connery ones, Doctor No and the like. But you know, I am unfortunately kind of not one for kind of the more kind of retro nostalgia of stuff. Kind of, unfortunately, kind of not a stickler, but like I like what's come out in my kind of lifetime more than others. I think generally across media.
Well, I think that's kind of how it works. It's been a franchise that's made for the generations, and each generation needs something different from James Bond. And as you said, like Daniel Craig went more gritty, went more towards dark spooks territory.
Yeah.
More towards a Bourne, but there's still that humor to it. It's still in there, and I think we see it in Dame Judi Dench playing M. For example. There's still that humor of, we know this is at the end of the day a huge joke.
Yeah, she hangs lampshades on every scene in that and points out how ridiculous Bond is.
Yeah. Did they finally confirm Idris Elba as a new Bond, or are we still with Daniel Craig? I'm a little bit lost in Bond land at the moment.
I don't think he was ever confirmed. Like, he's always been someone that people have been like, oh, it could be. I don't think he's ever
confirmed.
No. I do have to make a decision as a soldier. I have training in automatics, close quarter combat. Is CQB close quarter ballistics?
Yep.
Okay. Explosives, marksmanship, or two-weapon fighting. Oh, wait. Does this mean that I can dive through the air firing two guns at the same time?
Probably.
Live your best life, Oz. Live your best life. Die your best life may be the actual advice I'm giving.
We've got a first episode title there, I think. But I think as well, something that I was kind of touching on when we were talking about the different Bonds and different eras and stuff, like you were saying, is everything's made for its own era. So, the people, and I think particularly people in the geek community, forget that these things aren't made in isolation, and they're not just a kind of imagination fever dream of somebody who wants to create something just that's entirely of their own volition. Movies, plays, radio things, podcasts, anything is made about the time in which it is produced, even if it's talking about another era of history, I think. So, what we've done is, I want to make the Spy Game as much a toolkit approach as possible, so people can play any of those things. But our default is essentially kind of like an inverted commas tomorrow, because when I tried this as a one-off LARP, there was someone who came along, said something said something to me that's stuck with me about it, and it was like, we should set it in the 80s because the LARP that we did, because you can get all the stuff they thought were gadgets now. So like, little microphones and all that kind of stuff. And I forget, but there were specific examples, or like, now we've all got phones that like that's a lens of a camera. So kind of being able to have that around but still be in kind of the 80s made it feel gadgety and like high tech. So being able to set it the game as tomorrow means that we can kind of push the limits a little bit on kind of tech that's around, and also it means that I can look up loads of cool articles about like amazing like blood coagulants and like all the really funky kind of gadgetry and stuff that's going to be probably in our lives in the next 10-20 years, and spies can use them. They just do, and that very much is kind of the vibe with a series set today. So like was the Golden Circle Kingsman as well.
I feel bad that I've never seen.
It's questionable, but again it knows itself, I think, and it there are some quite kind of on the line jokes
Yes.
In the series, but I think it's aware of itself, and I think it's a bit more kind of wise to itself than.
It's one of those shows where I can watch it and go, there are bits I enjoy about it, but I feel like who is it? Feminist Frequency said it best, where you can like something but also be critical of it,
Oh yeah,
even highly critical of it.
Yeah, you can definitely like problematic favorites.
Yeah, and there's like I'm not going to get into the details. There's like a couple of scenes that in the whole thing where I'm like, bite my knuckles. It's that troublesome, but visually, like the visual style of most of the movie and the kind of spy stuff it gets into is good spy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the Golden Circle one particularly, really gadgety and really futury.
I need to watch that one.
Yeah, I mean that one is even more kind of on the line at some points.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought that was what you were talking about.
No, I'll talk about it out of this, but there's the first one. Basically, the reward at the end of the first one made me.
So
I don't think you should watch the second one then.
Okay.
I have a question relating to our game. Apart from the fact I've broken the character sheet already, the lack of races, is this compensated for within the class builds, or is it assumed that you're going to take a human race and just add those modifiers, or?
So everything that has been looped into backgrounds.
Gotcha.
So, which is the
Good
second step.
To know.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to ask Sam a question. I can see perception on the infiltrator thing as a skill, but it's not on the character sheet. Is that still a skill?
Did I miss it off?
Yeah.
Clever
so
me.
on the list.
I just wanted to check, and it hadn't been replaced by something else.
No, perception is still there. It's quite a key part of.
I have a weird question for Oz and Charlie though,
Okay.
because it might just be me being weird in how I make characters, but does anybody else wait to see what skill proficiencies they get from their background before they pick the ones from their class?
Yep.
Yeah, I do that. Well, you
I
mark it down the
build
side, like I can pick any of these, but I'm going to see what I get first, and then.
Yeah.
I build characters like ass backwards. I will usually do background first, and then I'll go and look at other things, and then I loop it all back around.
It's like a bit of back and forth.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
I
definitely
follow
what it
the
is.
steps, but then anything where I have to make a choice, where that choice also might be affected by another thing, I'm like, I'm just going to tick the side here
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
figure out.
especially in like normal D&D, where you get the race, and then you get your class, and then you get the background. You've got 3 different options to give you things, and then it's comparing and figuring out.
It's the equivalent of writing down your answer in a crossword in pencil before being 100% sure.
Never commit to pen.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I normally do with 5e backgrounds is I actually generally ignore the backgrounds now, and I'll pick 2 additional skills that match the character I've got in my head, and I'll take, I'll talk to the DM about an additional proficiency maybe, because you normally get like land vehicles or something, dice.
For the benefit of Sam, I'm probably going to use the default backgrounds here.
Yes, I will be, but I do find like the general backgrounds, I throw them. I've got to the point where I just throw them out the window. Otherwise, I'm always picking soldier, outlander, or there's like one other that I choose quite a lot, charlatan, I think.
Yeah, I play rogues a lot, so like charlatan and criminal are just. And the thing is, neither of them ever fit the kind of rogue I want to play, but none of the other ones give me bonuses that actually are meaningful to my character.
Yeah.
So.
That's kind of the point I've gotten to. And I find also with the background feats in normal 5e, you ignore that additional flavor thing that you can get, like being the acolyte, you can get healing from the temple.
Yeah, like bards get that free room and board stuff. To be fair, I've used that one because that one's actually really useful because we then don't have to spend party gold on
criminal contacts and things.
Yeah.
A lot of those are also kind of hooks for role-playing on. So you can go in and, have that chat with the temple and find out more about the temple, or you can start talking about your method of playing music in order to get free bed and board and stuff like that.
See, I agree, but I've found like a lot of DMs just kind of throw it out the window. They're like, yeah, no, you don't know anyone. You can't do that.
I think sometimes players forget that they have those, background things, and they've already got this idea of what they want their character to be, so they don't work that in. to work to their advantage. Like I've definitely had that before. I've had to remind people like, you know, your background gives you this thing, and they're like, oh, I just didn't think
The
of my character
best
having that.
background is the urchin because you get a pet mouse. So on the subject of backgrounds, that is step 2.
I was gonna, yeah. I already had an idea, like without looking at the backgrounds, I had an idea in my head of some sort of ex-military, like SAS kind of thing. So I'm interested to see what options there are.
So I'll read the text and then we will have a look. Your background represents your character's life before their career in espionage. They may have had a similar career in the past or been recruited from a civilian vocation. Their background will provide them with an increase to some ability scores when you determine them as step 3, as well as some proficiencies and unique advantages. You'll also decide their nationality, which will inform the languages your character automatically knows, as well as any other second languages. I think that should be secondary languages. Finally, you'll get to decide their personality traits, including their motivation as well as their flaws, which is my favorite bit. I love seeing the flaw options.
I apologise now for words poor attempt at bookmarks. Because why would a title be a bookmark?
Virginia, do you want to go through these?
Yeah, I can do. So we have the academic, which very much seems like somebody who did a lot of researching, and kind of like the academic fields of study. So it's got things like, there's examples here which I already like the look of: neurotoxins, particle physics, automobile mechanics. So that might be a fun one if you're playing like the medic or especially like the biochemist. We have the criminal, which I think would pretty much fit like any of the classes that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like criminal hacker, criminal biochemist.
It's that classic catch me if you can. If you can't beat them, hire them.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff here for like.
Well, if you think Man from U.N.C.L.E. as well, his background is criminal, and then he gets employed into an intelligence agency.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of that. So like a really fun trope in a lot of spy stuff is like, you were really bad, but you were really good at this thing, so we're going to recruit you for it.
Yeah,
we're going to keep doing it anyway. There's diplomatic, that looks interesting. So I guess if you're playing a more like a face character or something, you might want to. This one gives you more languages, and some charisma advantages. So I guess this is useful if you're the person that has to do a lot of talking about stuff, or you want to have that background in like knowing what's going on and having kind of connections, I guess.
Well, especially because if you consider if it's international espionage and you get, the diplomatic immunity and all of the stuff that goes on in consuls and I forget what else they're called. I was going to say assemblies. That's another word I was looking for. Embassies, similar. So it's that sort of character, the one who can literally listen in to the politicians
and know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think diplomat is one of the face archetypes, right? Did I see that? Or something like that.
So what kind of in terms of fiction, what kind of character would be the diplomatic background?
There was the movie that Nicole Kidman just did about the UN. Well, I say just did, it was like 5 years ago. That's how my cinema knowledge goes. And there's a lot of people are usually like the children of diplomats and they become spies because they're easy to turn. A lot of Russian spies in movies are usually, the child of someone who's high up and they get recruited. And
I think it's less of kind of like a direct thing where you draw like a link to a particular like film character, and it's more of a thing that they're capable of doing.
Right.
Like you have that awareness of kind of diplomatic relations and what goes on in those kind of things. Okay,
so like you would have grown up learning that you serve Ferrero Rocher at the ambassador's reception and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because interestingly, like the next one on here is government, which I think is kind of nice. It's got like espionage and infotech. So I guess this is more like it's got like internal security as a feature, so you can hack like government structures and servers and stuff. So I guess that's the difference, is like the diplomatic one is like the awareness of the stuff, whereas the government one is actually being like rooted in it as a background. So I guess that kind of reminds me of like Angelina Jolie's film Salt, in that you are part of that already, and you kind of know your way around.
Or it's kind of like going from the IRS and having that level of access, and then upgrading yourself and becoming a spy.
Yeah. I like the distinction though, Sam, in both of those, that one of them is kind of being rooted within that system, and the other one is more like having awareness of what's going on.
To me, it's the difference between politicians and civil servants.
Right.
The only reason for the terminology is that I'm not sure how universal civil servant is, particularly in the States as well. I'm suddenly very consciously aware that we are 4 Brits talking about all of this too.
Yeah. We all have very similar points of reference and cultural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there's one here that I think your character might be really good for, which is military background. So like being part of a military or paramilitary organization and having a kind of rank in that, which is kind of cool. I like that it doesn't push you towards a particular rank. You actually get to choose.
Yeah, so you can choose if you're like a disenfranchised private who joined the spy game or something like that.
Or whether you're like a captain that's moved into it, or
Yeah.
I think that's kind of fun. A lot of RPG games, I think, kind of force you into a particular rank depending on.
Yeah, like suggesting you have a high rank so that you get bonuses over people. But this could be that, you know, you've been kicked out at a lower thing, but you know, your group has formed an independent spy group or something like that. Spies for hire.
Yeah.
Mercenaries.
Which reminds me, I should have said, so Bravo Team is going to be a mercenary organisation.
Okay.
It allows us to play kind of various different things in different circumstances.
Then we have the sport background, which actually I really like the look of.
Yeah.
This is kind of like, so track and field is a feature, so it's to do with kind of being able to push yourself further, that kind of physical fitness.
Athletics makes sense.
Yeah, and you do get like a second language as well. I don't know if everyone does. I haven't been. Like, yeah, everyone gets a second language, which I think is really cool. I like that this is like it doesn't really tell you whether this is a civilian background or not. I guess you could kind of choose, and that if you wanted to pick that the reason for your kind of physical fitness is something other than just a civilian thing, that you have a choice there, which I think is fun. That none of these kind of force you into that box.
Like people who don't quite make the Olympics sometimes get approached to go and do these sorts of like experimental things, because they are obviously a peak of physical condition, so they can be pushed and prodded.
So I know that in the 5th edition D&D book, it's like you can play a thief background, or burglar or whatever, and then if you want, you can play a spy, which is basically the same but different. So this could work the same. So it could be sport or experimental
training or
yeah.
So that is all of the background. There's some things about political alignment down at the bottom. I'm actually interested, Sam, in how in why you kind of went for political alignment over other kinds of stuff.
Well, actually, James and I are now talking about it as a kind of point of debate for the game. I hate alignment because I just think it's dumb. I don't think it works.
I think it makes fun meme charts, but aside from that,
yeah.
I don't think anyone really uses it correctly. And look, they're only useful for, I found in D&D for me, is that when my players get too hooked up on what alignment they are, it starts limiting what they can do. Because if it's like, well, I'm chaotic neutral, I can just do a thing.
Yeah, it becomes a strange justification when they don't have a good story justification.
Yeah,
so,
or they don't know what to do, and they're just like, well, my alignment says good, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I think it entirely came out of like a legacy of a mechanical thing in 3rd edition, because there were things that specifically affected lawful or chaotic things, or good or evil things.
A literal aura around you if you were evil that a paladin could sense.
Yeah,
they would know. Whereas that alignment, that morality alignment, doesn't work. It doesn't exist in 5e. Yeah,
I mean, partially, I imagine, because 5e is more narrative focused and there aren't those mechanics, and also just over time people went, it's no fun to just walk into a tavern and go, detect evil, okay, kill that guy.
Yeah, I mean, there are still spells and stuff in 5e that affect particular good and evil stuff, but I know in my games, I run it literally as if you happen to have a spell that does something with an alignment, that's the only time they ever apply, because otherwise we have to figure out how else this
Usually,
works.
what it does is, correct me if I'm wrong, Virginia, is it flavors the damage. So I know if you are evil aligned, it gives you necrotic instead of radiant in one case.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. I think there are a couple in terms of like some of the detect spells and like aura spells still have if they are of an evil alignment, that you can cast this thing and they can't come any closer, and weird things like that. But I tend to like flavor those in game with players, as it's not just because that character's evil, because that's boring. It's something else that's part of that spell that repels that thing.
Yeah.
I remember when I was first playing, it helped me in that I was like, okay, what sort of a person do I want to be? And then I would just start ignoring it after that. And then I lost interest altogether and just started playing the character that I'd...
Yeah, I'm just interested in terms of like how rigid political alignment is in this game, and kind of how does it affect the mechanics or story and stuff like that.
I would actually say pretty plainly it doesn't affect the game mechanics at all, from what I've developed. So I've presented it here really as a kind of alternative to that kind of default alignment thing, because really, if you're playing spies, no one's playing a lawful character, because by definition everything they do is illegal. So, well, under certain, not everything, I suppose, but if your country lets you gather information in a certain way, then you can do that. But that wouldn't necessarily stop you if you had orders to do something else.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, lawful also can very much mean someone who has a very strong core set of like a code of conduct that they follow, rather than governmental laws.
Yeah.
But I would be very worried that political alignments that you have put in here would lead more just to table talk about and either like bad feelings about talking about these things, or people caricaturizing each other almost.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, I'm not particularly tied to it as a concept either. So it might be just that it's not presented in the final version.
The other danger of it is it almost makes the game too real.
It
starts dragging in too much of the reality stuff that isn't as fun to deal with. It might be interesting for some people, and there are definitely hardcore spy games out there that do dive you straight into Russian Cold War, and you need to know who is who and have those things. But I think for something like this, it may lead to, this is too political for me, I'm out.
Yeah. This is what I deal with in real world.
Yeah, I wonder if something more along the lines of something moral, in terms of like questioning, does your character have their own code of ethics? Is it, I will do what my organization pays me to do, regardless of what it is? Or is it, if I don't think what I've been ordered to do is fair, in which case I will try and find a way around that? Like, I wonder if a moral standpoint, because I think if you do this kind of work, you have to know where you draw a line. What are you prepared to do for money or for the good of your country?
It's a shame you've already used black and white hats, because that's the perfect metaphor for this. The black hats go to one point, the white hats go to one point, and the grey hats, they don't know yet. They haven't figured it out yet.
I was going to suggest another set of axes, but then I realized I was just talking about lawful versus chaos and good versus evil again. It was like, save the village versus do what you're told for money, and then loose cannon versus by the book, but that's the same thing.
I would suggest for the most interesting characters, don't put it in there. People will decide, and they will make their moral things, and you will find it in play. You will figure out your SAS guy, actually, he's not just going to assassinate anyone on a whim. He needs to know why he's killing this target, for example. I'm not saying that's how you have to play at all. Or you might find the assassin won't just murder someone's child for money. That might be where their hard limit is as a person, their morale. Or they might just be like, right, that's my target, get in, get it done cleanly, and that's their main goal, is get it done cleanly, do it right, and that's what's important to them.
I mean, we already have 4 personality traits here that theoretically should give us a good sense of who we are.
I was literally about to say, I mean, all this can just be folded back into the personality traits.
Yeah.
Is this game still using inspiration?
It's not. I haven't got it in.
Okay.
That's something else I find, like, it varies so much from table to table how inspiration's used.
So what we do at our table is just at the end of every game, I ask all the players who they think should have inspiration.
Nice.
And it takes it off my head because I always forget, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what backgrounds do people think they're going to have? I'm going to go for military. I'm going to go for ex-SAS, now gone mercenary.
I have a question. What page are we on? Or whether they
53? Or, sorry, around...
Okay, I just needed a ballpark. Save me
Yeah.
scrolling all the way.
It starts at page 50.
There we go.
Perfect, thank you.
Or 52 if you're on PDF, I guess. I'm going for the sport background because I kind of want the athletics and kind of the strength stuff so I can reflect that a bit in kind of martial arts. So I'm not entirely kind of dex based.
Got to get that speed increase somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I nearly always play dex only characters, but I'd like to have someone that can kind of base stuff on strength as well. So
pencil in a little +2 for my background because this is where it comes from. So I get fieldcraft and tactics. So fieldcraft is not listed in the skills. So what is this?
Survival. No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
That's under military, is it?
Yes, yeah.
I would almost appreciate it being renamed Fieldcraft over Survival.
I did. The only issue is that fieldcraft basically means everything you do as a spy. It doesn't necessarily just mean
Well, that's Spycraft.
Not in the research from it I found. Fieldcraft can be stuff like handing off a parcel or like losing a tail or something like that. It's all of the stuff you do under kind of an espionage mission, rather than just wilderness and kind of survival things.
So survival is one of the skills now.
Yeah.
Sorry, are you saying? Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, I'd originally named it Fieldcraft, but if you see that anywhere, it is survival.
Survival isn't in the list either, as well as the...
Oh, Sam. Need to start inserting some lines. I can copy some of these over.
I've got a problem with my class features box. That makes it really hard to read my class features.
Let me figure that out for you. Hang on a sec.
Okay.
Oop.
There's an alignment thing you can do in Google Docs that shifts it to where it should be. It's in the top bar somewhere.
Oh, I think Sam just fixed it for me.
Okay.
I did. I think you need some more
Thank
space.
I do.
Boop. There we go.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a speed that is not 30 feet? Is like the sporty one? Yes, the sporty one is faster.
I've got a speed of 40 feet.
Okay.
Sam, I have a question. It says here special proficiency. You gain proficiency with weapon/gadget. Is that a specific weapon/gadget that just hasn't been added in?
I am currently missing that out. Thought I was more complete than this. Is that sport, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that italics there is me not having finished it off. I would love a suggestion, because, I mean, sports, apart from, I don't know, like javelins or something, I don't know what to go for.
What do you get?
I mean, I'll have a look through weapons and gadgets and stuff.
We could do shot put, which is also a weapon you don't want to get hit in the head with.
Yeah.
That is true.
Pole vaulting. Also don't want to get hit with one of those things. Also very useful for hopping over your enemy.
Yeah.
I love the idea of you taking this massive pole into wherever we're going.
Well, I kind of want to base hers on like her having kind of a martial arts kind of thing. So her athletic ability is kind of more endurance based, and
I love the idea of a telescopic nightstick. You just flick it and it just perpetually gets depending on what you want to use it for, and you just lock it.
I mean, that could be a gadget.
I like knuckle dust as a thing, Sam.
For a sporty background, though, this is what I'm struggling
If you're a
with.
boxer, boxing
Yeah.
is a sport. It's a very athletic sport.
Yeah. The thing with this, though, is that any piece of equipment we choose is going to kind of dictate what sport you did. And I want to avoid that because it's a jumping off point for people to go, oh, well, I had a sporty background, therefore I will decide the sport and I will do, whatever.
Is it worth then just listing it in there that it's a thing that you talk to your GM about? It's a weapon or a gadget that was based on what you did, as opposed to confining someone to a particular.
Yeah.
Because that's not an
Particular
abnormal instruction for a background either. Discuss your, because that's in the, I forget which one it is, like the Hermit or something, where they're looking for something in particular, and it's like discuss with your GM what the subject might be. Or
The specific proficiency comes from race, I believe, though. So it's part of that section of character creation. So what that does is it's like, dwarves and jewelry tools or whatever it is. It's that kind of thing.
the toolkit.
Yeah. But I think that could work. Pop that in.
Because I think then you get a much more versatile background for it. Because I know the feature's called track and field, but in most sports, like, good cardio is a thing. So it's not unusual that anyone who did martial arts to things like shot put or even, archery is technically a sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think being able to...
You say technically like it's not actually a sport. It is.
Well...
It's
I
part
don't
of
like
the-
to think of it as a sport because I would quite like to do archery, and the idea of having to be somewhat physically fit terrifies me, because that means I have to then, go to
Nah,
the
you
gym
don't.
and stuff. No, it's not. It's not a thing. I spend my days playing role-play games to avoid doing the outside stuff. So
Awesome. Cool. All right.
But yeah, Sam, are there any things on, like, in terms of if I have like a martial arts sports background, what piece of equipment or weapon or gadget would be?
I mean, you mentioned knuckle dusters was fairly good, I think, from earlier.
Nunchucks.
Yeah. Martial artist gets the proficiency for traditional melee anyway, or it should do.
I'm imagining a kind of like a background of not necessarily like disciplined martial arts like karate or Krav Maga, but in terms of like every film you see where it's a dingy old like boxing ring, but they're not really boxing, they're just fighting. You're just learning how to fight, and in terms of like the physical fitness and endurance side of it.
I mean, that is a lot in modern schools of Krav Maga, to be fair. It's very much just it's a much more practically applied martial art rather than it being steeped in tradition and being quite fixed. It's always changing. It's always adapting. So it's, but I see what you mean about the kind of, rather than being a kind of, I've gone to a Krav Maga class for 20 years. It's like, I've just learned how to fight.
I just had this perverse idea of someone having ribbons and then using them as like a garrote or like a new just
like Olympic, yeah.
I mean, my character does have a garrote string because that's like listed as one of the things that you get from the class. So that's fun. It's bringing back Acton Cthulhu memories of that game we once played, Sam.
Never speak of that again.
I get a forgery kit. Throw that somewhere. Or I get proficiency with a forgery kit. I don't get a forgery kit.
I get proficiency with military ranged weapons. However, I am already proficient with military ranged weapons. I take it that just falls off.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see maybe what else I could give that.
Because I would expect the soldier often would take the military background.
Yeah. So you want something that works rather than just gets kind of forgotten.
Yeah, or even just being told you can have proficiency in one non-standard piece of equipment or something like that.
We do have heavy weapons, so...
Oh no, I'm already... So again, light, medium, and heavy armor, simple military and heavy range weapons. I'm already... I take it there's no idea of exotic quote-unquote weapons in this.
No, what I've done is traditional, and then there's also... Let me load up the equipment. There's two. That's gone all funny. So we do have simple melee weapons, traditional melee weapons, which is like nunchuck, sai, spear, staff, sword, whip, katana, shuriken, that kind of thing. And I should add in a couple more from kind of European traditional weapons as well. And then simple ranged weapons are stuff like a bow or a taser, a spear gun, because sometimes you need a harpoon. Why not? And then simple, pistol comes under simple ranged melee, so light and heavy. And then military ranged weapons go everything up from a machine pistol to an anti-material rifle, everything in between. And then heavy weapons is another category, so it might be that you can pick a heavy weapon proficiency.
Okay.
So I'm just, mixing and matching bonds and flaws and things from both government and...
Oof. Well, that's okay. You can make up your own.
I know, but I thought I'd use the ones that you've provided. I'm just mixing and matching.
That's cool. That's fine.
So we can see more.
Heavy weapons. Soldier doesn't say, sorry, Oz, that you get any heavy weapon proficiency, right?
It does currently, I think. Let me have a look.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want me to remove that?
Well, no, I mean, it's just up for... I'm just thinking, really. Heavy weapons give you access to, or proficiency with, flamethrowers, RPGs, grenade launchers, rocket
What about
launchers.
Proficiency in military vehicles.
Yeah, well, there's a section for vehicles, which, because I've been working on the vehicle rules fairly recently, I haven't filled in quite yet in terms of categories. So there's already a thing in there for proficiencies.
I mean, I might be
Vehicles in the class.
overthinking this because some people might take military when they're not a soldier, and other people might take other classes when other backgrounds match it. It might just be something that falls off. And
Yeah, I think it's absolutely legit, man. Absolutely right. Because I think a lot of people will pick those two things together.
yeah,
So it's making them work together that we need to work out. Let me think on it and see if there's a good match somewhere from what I'm not springing to mind right now. If you can make a note somewhere that there's a background special proficiency that you haven't got yet that
Cool.
we can then give you. Yeah, cool. How's everybody so far? Just checking in. How's it all going?
Yeah, it's okay.
good. Yeah,
I'm
it's
the world's slowest filler in of sheets.
Oh,
my big concern is the background stuff and making this up.
mm-hmm.
It's just weird trying to do stuff on like Google Sheets because I'm so used to just being able to like write stuff down and then rub it out and like
Yeah.
notes and stuff. So I'm probably gonna have to go back at some point and tidy the character sheet up, but
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I've never like done a sheet on stream at the same time before. It's a new experience for me.
So for my personality trait, I'm thinking I love to travel to exotic new lands, meet interesting new people, and kill them.
Just drop that in there.
We just call that Friday.
So it's like his ability to resolve problems is kind of single-minded in that if the problem isn't alive, it's not a problem.
Sure.
Fair. Valid. I wouldn't argue with him about that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either.
You'd argue with that concept quietly in another room.
Yeah. As long as you are forever pointed towards someone else, I'm fine with it. Oh, poop. We swear on your channel, Sam?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't mind, personally. I think I kind of set a precedent with the things from the Flood game that I ran, and it all got very Cronenberg.
That game got so weird.
Yeah.
It was great, though.
Speaking to James this weekend, and he was like, "You do horror really well, dude." And I was like, "I'd never occurred to me that I did."
You do horror well.
Weird.
I think it's because you describe things in a lot of detail, so it just adds to that.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Creepy frog guy from Friday.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was delightful.
I just like watching chat being like, has he got the Innsmouth up? Is it Innsmouth? And I'm pretty sure all of us on stream, as you were describing this, were going, is this person going to try and kill us? Is he just going to be some weird, deep one fish creature that just takes us into the back room and tries to murder us all?
Well, that's what I quite enjoyed about the character, actually, is that after a bit of a tweak from the published material, he's just there to help you. Can be weird.
I'm really torn between infiltration and stealth, and I'm wondering which one is actually going to be practically more useful in a game situation.
If it helps, I've taken infiltration as one of my expertise things because I get expertise at first level.
Nice. Okay.
So
yeah.
I don't know if that helps in your decision. In like if we're trying to build something fairly balanced.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with stealth. I think keep it additional. Okay, so I have gone with my proficiencies from my class, deception, stealth, and insight. From my background, I get deception, stealth, and espionage. From my background, I get insight and persuasion. I think I've done that right. I've now confused myself, but I think that's right.
Yeah, I've picked stealth, infiltration, deception, and I think it's acrobatics that I get from my, like, I get to pick, and then the other two that I get are athletics and medicine. So, which I'm happy about. I get the feeling that my character's going to be patching herself up a lot.
Yeah, part of me is like, shit, we haven't got a medic. What were we thinking?
So in terms of skills, I get a choice of 3 from acrobatics, athletics, driving, survival, intimidation, and tactics. But then I get survival and tactics from the military one anyway, so I feel rather on brand right now.
I'm going to take a light pistol for my starting gear. I'm going to take an undercover pack, a disguise kit, and then I also get an undercover vest and a garrote string. So that's that all done.
Okay, I picked athletics, drive, intimidation, survival, and tactics. Does anybody else know how to drive well?
No.
Nope.
Okay. I apparently have advantage on tactics as well.
Awesome.
What is tactics? Can you give me an example?
So tactics is the knowledge of strategy, squad tactics. It's everything from kind of personal squad level stuff right up to like theatre of war stuff.
Okay.
Because the skills are fairly broad as they are.
Apply that in a game. What is the game scenario?
Let me pull out my one of my Google chapters quickly in a different window.
Sorry.
No, it's cool because I have some actual written examples, and rather than try and grasp at one, I might as well come up with one I've worded really well.
So just so people are aware of the kind of archetype I'm going for, have people seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes.
You know Lance Hunter, the like the British guy?
Yes.
That's what I'm kind of aiming for.
I will believe you that it is awesome.
Right.
Yeah, it has its moments. It also has its not moments.
So tactics is the skill used to formulate and execute a military operation, applying knowledge of military assets and equipment to provide the most effective small-scale victory over an enemy. Tactics is the smallest scale of strategic planning applied at the squad level to execute ambushes, assaults, and set up reconnaissance. An agent might use tactics to plan an attack, find a choke point, set up an ambush, or recognize an objective.
Okay, question. How is that different from infiltration?
Infiltration is a skill for covert placement and insertion of agents into a location or organization. Used in conjunction with espionage, it is used to gain entrance to buildings, evaluate security measures, or tactically to get behind enemy lines. An agent might use infiltration to find a path past passing security cameras, designate an extraction location, target a possible dissident enemy operative, or evaluate a guard's patrol route. So I can see there's a
I would
fair
argue
bit of
they're
bleed
kind
there.
of the same thing. The only difference is the application of what you find out. So
Yeah,
whether you
true.
decide to blow it up or walk in. But I would argue it's kind of the same thing.
Sure.
I would also be wary that some of the tactic stuff is just the stuff that players would do anyway. Like
Without
they would want to
knowing
work out a lot of
yeah.
these tactics.
Hmm.
I mean, this isn't how 5th edition works, but it would be fun to be able to go like, if you succeed, you can ask 2 questions of the GM or something like that. But that is inherently how not how 5th edition works.
Yeah.
Um,
Or, you could call your handler for additional information, which is call the GM and be like, look, these are the 2 questions that we're really stuck on.
yeah.
This is what I rolled. What can I find out? Which is kind of a Powered by the Apocalypse type.
Yeah. That's literally, yeah.
But which I really appreciate from Powered by the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's a really cool, handy thing.
I'm coming from Stranger Things as well, which is the same. Not Stranger Things, Tales from the Loop.
Almost.
Sam, just a note for you on here in that the sports background is missing an example personality trait. I didn't know if you knew, but
They don't have personalities, apparently.
Wow.
I did note that down. Yeah.
I've kind of mixed matched those things. I've left ideal open. I think I'm gonna make my own. I just need to
That's cool.
play the character. That's just how I make characters because I'm awkward. But I did read through the options and they were very good. Okay, so I think that leads us to rolling our skills. Our not skills, traits. Things.
Ability
Abilities.
scores.
Ones. They're called different things in all the different systems.
They are.
It's a brain melt.
oh, this is so fun getting to roll real dice. Which of the ways of generating ability scores are we using?
Yes. Let's go with standard for now.
Cool.
Roll 4, keep 3.
Mm-hmm.
Open up my notepad. I guess we're choosing where we assign the numbers, not just as they come out.
This is classic 1st edition D&D.
No.
Just gotta check. Every DM has their own specific set. rules.
Guidance is assign these totals to your ability scores in any order you like, and add your background's ability score improvement.
9, 11.
This method is less random than classic and tends to create characters with above average ability scores.
I'm rolling pretty well.
I started off with a
rolling
10.
okay.
Yeah.
Started off
To
with
go
a 6.
downhill by roll 3.
Oh. I need 1 below 10. Come on, dice. 1 below 10. Let me know where I'm shit at. Oh, or not. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
11, 13. I rolled 60. I'll read them in number order. So 16, 15, 13, 13, 12, 11.
That's all right.
I've started with 10, 12, 10, so this is going well. 10, 12, 10, 12.
10, 12, 10, 12. That should be like your sign off on a cool 10, 12, 10, 12.
What? Just some really confused handlers on the other end.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Yeah, I've got 10, 12, 10, 12, 11, 13.
Oof.
So I've got 11, 15, 9, 12, 10, 14.
It's not bad. So my
Time to
charisma is going to be
My
an
dump stat is going to be.
So my score, because I put my 16 in charisma, so it now goes up to an 18 because I get a +2 from my background as a diplomat, which is a +4 modifier. Oh, good grief!
4.
Been too long since I've done this.
Assault rifles are dex? Question mark.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, still very kept very much with the simplification of melee is strength, dex is ranged.
Yep.
Love my wife. She's texting me about dinner. We're gonna have fajitas. It's gonna be amazing.
Ooh, yes.
Veggie
I'm excited for
fajitas.
my dinner as well. So the only modifier we get is from our background, correct?
That is correct. He says dubiously. See, now I always tend to, and this is, I think, just personal preference, do purchase ability scores. I don't like the randomness.
I'm not a big fan of the randomness, and you can see why.
Yeah, that's
But
why.
it's too late.
There's still a 12-year-old wargamer inside me somewhere that's just like, no randomization as much as possible. And the wargames team at work haven't helped either, because now they're just like, just do this, it's better.
I'm that horrendous person who picked up Warhammer 4E and I rolled random for everything, because you can do that with the Warhammer 4E system, just everything random. I ended up with an artist. But I turned my my paintbrushes into shanks, and I used my enemy's hair as like fresh bristles, and turned out I was actually a skilled fighter as well as an artist. So you know, never judge a book by its cover. But I was there to basically discover things that I could paint to do a grand mural for the king.
I need to flip the formula there on Oz on the modifier for your skills, because it's currently showing the actual
I
ability
did the wrong
score.
way around.
That's all right.
I started pulling it in the wrong way around, is why I expected score to be at the top.
But weirdly enough, but this, how I've done it here, is how it's laid out on your character sheets. The modifier is the big number, and in the little box you put the actual score.
This is
well, that's how you do that. But these boxes aren't different sizes, Sam.
this is true.
Mate, I can only do so much. You know what I mean? I'm going to give you a beautiful sheet, not one I've knocked up this morning. Then give me a little while.
Make it beautiful, Sam.
I'm trying.
I'm curious to know, what is everyone's dump stat so far?
Well, I have 3 dump stats.
Oh no!
No, you don't. It's only a dump.
And my power stats are maximum 2. So
We're only level 1, and you gotta remember the average person is a 10.
this is true. My person's very average.
That's okay.
It's fine. Okay, so my dump stats are int, wisdom, and charisma.
Cool. Mine is intelligence.
Mine's strength.
Strength is my best one because I get a +2 to that, and just
You're an athlete. It makes sense.
yeah.
And you do punch people by default.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I was thinking. I was like, melee attacks only, like unarmed attacks use strength, and so do a lot of like melee weapons.
The other thing,
I'm
I was
assuming
saying,
like garrote strings will use strength rather than like dex or anything. So
yeah, don't forget, Oz, you got the superior tech and firepower behind you. You don't have to be a superior person
is
to pull a
true.
trigger.
And that is so true, not only in real life, but about the game as well itself that we've found through in the kind of the alpha and looking at it. Developing the kind of the feel of the lethality of guns makes character levels actually a massive leveler, and we're having to put into place with NPCs particularly, basically that we're optioning it out so that if you want to give them a gun, you can at the kind of lower levels. Like if it's just a police officer, you can give them a gun or not, because we all know in the UK that police here generally do not carry guns. A gun, like even a pistol or something, represents almost a challenge ratings increase in the NPC.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of estimate we've kind of given it. So, like, it is such a leveler in
Me,
terms
this
of
is
combat.
exciting because I find 5e, a lot of the terror goes out of the game after level 5 when your healers can revivify you, heal you enough.
The works, yeah.
And you know, you go into those low combat, as long as you're not outnumbered, you're usually going to be okay in low levels. But it makes it more real because in the real world, you don't go out and start a fight with every hobo on the street because, you know, that's how encounters are generated in a D&D world. You walk through it and you meet things to fight because it's a combat game.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a combat game and is a combat encounter game, but it's more real in that you don't want to end up in those fights if you don't want to have to get to it, which is going to push you to use those espionage skills, the infiltration skills, you know, the smart skills. And then when you get to it, you get to pull that trigger and boom, you feel the impact of that moment. And combat seems significant again.
Yeah. It also
That's
makes
just
it
my
that little bit...
personal experience of it.
No, you're spot on. And I also, because I also don't want the game to just be a walk to the next encounter game. You know, and it was such a thing that I was really thinking about when it came to XP and the reward of play kind of side of things, because experience is gained in this normally, or the kind of fantasy version or whatever, by defeating monsters. By killing monsters, essentially, that's what gives you the XP. It doesn't. I know that there are options, and there's a lot of GM caveat for adding other things, like, you know, reaching a kind of story milestone or doing the quest you set out to do and stuff like that. But by default, the grind, and we've seen it so much in the medium of video games as well. Of you know, grind the monsters, defeat,
Kill 10 wolves.
give me 20 bear pelts and you're good to go. Like, but this is not, and the genre doesn't lend itself to that kind of game.
Yeah.
So
I would almost expect this game for it to be suggested that it's a milestone level up. That, you know, maybe it's not measured in completed missions. It's measured in how your character has progressed and survived whatever situation they're in. Because some missions are going to take not very long to do. You know, you do a parcel drop and you don't get caught and you get out and it's clean and yes, it's a great feeling. And then you do the longer missions where you're dumped into Syria or you're dumped into, you know, wherever made up land to do a, you know, hostile territory, hostile terrain, hostile people that you got to work with.
You're dropped in 30 miles out of the objective and you have to make your way there.
Yeah.
And like make your way out of the country and stuff.
You might do 2 story milestones in that time, even though it's just one mission.
Yeah, exactly. What I've got by default at the moment is XP rewards for completing objectives, and then also there will be kind of some side objectives pertaining to the mission. So one of them could be silence. So if you are not caught in any way, or if you're, you know, if you're not recorded on surveillance or anything like that, then you've got a bonus. If you are, well, the mission, you've still completed the mission, you've still completed the objective, but you've not quite done it in the way that we really would have hoped. But that's okay.
Problems.
Yeah.
So your bosses aren't as happy with you as they could have been.
Yeah. I really want to see what comes out in play with, it almost. It's a tough one because it's not like I want to set up a big combat encounter with lots of tokens and everything like that, and then no one does anything or shoots anything. But it's like actually this encounter, and it reminds me a bit of, and I'm inspired, I think, a bit by the original Assassin's Creed game that gave you maps of like not mini maps and not like movable radar-y style maps, literal maps of where the guards were going to be if you completed like eavesdropping and stuff. And I'm really keen to see what comes out of play in terms of that kind of thing, where we set up an encounter and actually the turns are about not being in line of sight, moving from here to here, taking out the surveillance camera, getting up behind a guard, taking them behind a corner, disarming them and knocking them out or something, and that kind of stuff. I'm really keen to see some of that because that's the kind of gameplay I love.
The solid Metal Gear games,
yeah,
the actual GoldenEye game.
Yeah,
you remember that game?
Yeah, I do.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah, I remember trying many times to get past the guards without being like noticed that it's me or seen or something like that. That worked really well in GoldenEye. I'm thinking back, I'm surprised.
Yeah,
it's kind of the equivalent, I guess, to when you get those little like mission achievements, Steam achievements in different games for different little things. They don't give you anything extra really, but it's that pride of, yes, I did this all with just grenades.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool. But yeah, I definitely I would expect just myself going into a modern setting, even though I know it's D&D and it's 5e, or rather it's not D&D, it's 5e, for it to feel scary, for fights not to be something that you seek out all the time, unless maybe you're pissed off and then you want to go and punch your other merc buddy.
Yeah,
but
a sense of danger and a real sense of peril. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
I mean, it does feel with the high use of possible guns that if we were to get in a firefight, that's almost like a game failure state because guns are so powerful.
Yeah.
And we've particularly found with a bit of alpha testing at level 1, you get shot, you're more or less going to hit the dirt.
Yeah, that's why.
About it, or the counterpoint to that. Sorry, Oz.
No, you go.
Is it's not going to be that easy to get ammo when you're out of it. If you're in the middle of something, you run out of ammo, you're not going to get a supply drop necessarily. And you can't just go into Asda and be like, can I get like 4 RPGs and I'll take some, 9mm for this. I need, 64 cal for that.
You just walk over your enemy's body and you pick up the ammo, don't you? That's how it works in games.
You just float over them.
Stand over them long enough.
Yeah.
A little box will pop up in the corner of your vision to tell you what you've picked up. You don't even have to figure it out.
I guess that's a reason not to kill civilians. They're not going to drop much useful, but you might want to steal that.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, that's the only reason not to kill civilians. But they might drop credit cards. That'd be useful. Now I'm just like, what can I steal off an average person?
Are you already planning to murder hobo your way through whatever?
No, I'm thinking if I get to that point where I need shit, how am I going to get that shit?
Mugging hobos. Great. Oh no.
No, you don't mug the hobos. They have their money. You mug the bankers.
No, you're the muggy hobos.
Yeah, we're the muggy.
Yeah.
The muggy. That's the name of our business corporation.
Muggy hobos. I'm writing it down.
No, don't.
No, okay.
Don't let me name anything.
Oh god, we need a team name.
Your Bravo team.
Yeah, but we work for someone. We're the Bravo team of someone. Or is that literally like, that's what it says on our van, Bravo team.
Yeah.
With a B team.
white on white, Bravo team.
It's like the A team theme, but put in the minor key all the way through.
I like it when a plan disappears into the distance.
I like it when a plan sort of maybe is alright.
I love when a plan just kind of does its own thing. And
yeah.
Just, we'll wing
it. When a plan falls apart, that's what you call the B team.
I love it when we improvise. Yeah. You do need to name me, though. Well,
that's a responsibility.
So Alpha Team was headed up, so the handler was, I used to call him Moneybags, but it wasn't that. Dollar Bill.
Right.
His name was Dollar Bill.
Oh, gosh.
I think Webb is like a really good spy last name.
The
He
web.
could be the web.
Yeah.
Web.
It's like the shadow broker type thing. The web.
The web.
Well, I did just look up a codename generator, and what it gave me was Fickle Grandma. So let's not go with that one.
That's what I mean. They're rubs. They're
That's
just
the
rubs.
name that's labeled in my underwear.
There is also Salty Prince. Depending on how angry our handler is, I guess. But I'm good with the web. That works.
And then there's me. I'm gonna call Webby now.
Yeah, fair. Cool. All right. Well, that's cool.
You
So
could literally be RPG Webby. You realize this? You're our
I mean, I literally could be actually. Yeah. Rocket propelled grenade. Maybe. Not sure I want to be shot out of a rocket, but. Dear, oh dear.
I'm looking at my background traits. I want to go through them and see what people think. So my trait is I love to travel to exotic new lands, meet interesting new people, and kill them. So it's I am excited by our going out there and doing the job, and military stuff just is my blood. Ideal, my reputation is important. I don't get paid if nobody hires me. So, if something starts to go wrong, I'll actually start to worry about this kind of thing.
Yes.
Bond, my husband is the love of my life, but he doesn't know the full extent of what I do.
Oh, that's nice. There is that whole kind of hardboiled conflict of like telling the loved ones. The whole Alias, that's the whole setup for Alias as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that kind of thing's great.
My flaw is, who doesn't love a swift bevy? It's camaraderie, right?
British Army through and through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what
Mr. Smith. I like it.
I'm not sure what to put for my ideal, and I'm tempted to kind of leave it
Yeah, that's
blank
what I've
until I
done.
know what this character's going to do. But I do have a trait for her, which is will push through obstacles, physical or mental. It's that kind of like athlete, that background of like pushing yourself past the mental block of I can't do this, and the physical block of like I hurt or I'm in pain or this training is physically exhausting. Her bond is proving herself equal to those who believe they're better.
Okay.
Competitive.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
idea of like I imagine that in the place that she's kind of learnt to fight, there are lots of people who put her down because she was smaller or because she was a woman or because she failed terribly at the very beginning of it. I like the idea of that. And it's that's her kind of her link to a lot of things is proving that she can do this thing. And her flaw kind of ties into both of those. She doesn't like to be perceived as weak, and that means she sometimes doesn't know when to stop. Like if she has to push it that bit further, because that in her mind that's how that's the only way she gets past that obstacle. That is what she'll do.
So would someone be able to kind of push you in that regard and be like,
Yeah.
okay,
Like absolutely. If it was a case of like she wouldn't enjoy being with the idea of not being able to do something. So it is that kind of, I don't know, that's where the inspiration from Atomic Blonde comes in that she might be in the middle of a fight where she could very well lose, but to her it's just another obstacle. It's a physical obstacle or a mental obstacle, and if she stops and she's weak, so she has to keep going.
Okay.
I think it works as a flaw, but also it probably has worked in her favor sometimes, and that extra push.
Yeah.
And that kind of works with the class feature that she has of being able to like push herself that bit further. But I'm not sure what her ideal is.
Job interview technique of my flaw is also my strength. Don't fight me. Yeah, I've left ideal blank. For trait, I have chosen I protect my country from its own people. So I've mixed diplomat and government here, but they're both kind of similar in some ways. For my bond that I've chosen, I will bring a war criminal to justice. I like the idea that she has this overarching goal within her. She's doing this merc work, she's doing these missions, but she's always working towards that private goal, that one person that got away or hasn't been brought to justice, and she's working towards being in the position to do that. I always like that in movies, that slight rogue element to the person of, all right, we got to get this person. Oh shit, there's whatever the terrorist's name was or whatever. That's a distraction. That's now I've got to choose. Do I do the mission or do I go after my mission? And then for the flaw, I have my vanity obscures my goals. So again, the distraction of the mission, but then that James Bond thing of, oh, there's a pretty girl in the casino, or, oh, shit, I smudged my lipstick. Hold on.
I really like your Bond, Charlie. It reminds me of, I can't think of the name of the film, but it's the girl who like grows up and gets taught how to kind of be a mercenary assassin because of the guy that killed her parents. And then it's like, I can't think of what it was.
I can't think of what that is, but that sounds really familiar. I'm sure I've seen that film.
There's a whole thing with like the lotus flower and stuff like that. I can't think of what it is now. But I just think she kills him in the end with her dogs, which are adorable but also terrifying. But that's a really cool film because she kind of like, she gets more and more distracted the closer she gets and starts getting really sloppy. And I'm gonna have to Google this now to figure out what it is.
That's fine. So there's still a few bits to fill in, but as we're coming towards the kind of end of our time, I'm wanting to get some questions, some answers out of you guys on kind of what we've done today so far. So my first question really is just, is the process simple and self-explanatory?
I found that yes, Colombiana, yes. As for the process, I found it was very simple in that it's laid out in steps and it's simplified beyond standard 5e in that we don't have to choose race. That's built into background. And so I think that's going to throw people to start with, and they're going to be like, okay. Yeah. But then it's also, it's much more slick in that, you know, there's only 2 places for you to look at to figure out what skills you're getting, what traits are being improved, what your saving throws are. So I really appreciated that, and I thought it was nice and straightforward, but it didn't fix you into you have to do it in this order as a flowchart.
Cool. I very much agree that the lack of, you know, race or lineage or ancestry or whatever really it threw me as well. And I think I was more thrown because there wasn't a sort of call out for it. Like, you might be expecting this, but you actually do it via the background. But for the most part, yeah, it was very clear. However, I have to be aware that I am used to putting together 5e characters. So I was hopping between sections that I knew were kind of there. But in doing so, it was very easy to be able to find the things I was looking for.
That's a really nice note about backgrounds and how they've amalgamated the race and background stuff that I think really should be in there. So I'll add that as I'll add that in as a sidebar in the final version. So it's like, you know, backgrounds encapsulate both, you know, some parts, some mechanical parts of the fantasy races, but also some mechanical parts of background, and they're tied together here. So that's how it works out. Just because, like you said, it's not going to be how you expect it to be. Yeah. So that's really cool. I'll definitely add that in. Awesome. Virginia?
Yeah, I found that really easy to follow. But I guess, like Oz, I'm also used to 5th edition well. I'm
very aware we've got some kind of, you know, some luminaries here. So it's not like I've got a kind of a complete kind of blind playtest guy. It's that kind of thing.
I mean, I have been away from 5e for quite a while, as you've probably realised on Thursday games. I'm like, well, how does this rule work again?
Sure, yeah.
Sorry, Virginia, please finish.
No, go on if you've got...
I was just going to quickly say, Sam, what I could do is I could give this to my mum, because she wouldn't know.
Yeah.
If she follow it, then we'll know.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Anyway, I'm really sorry, Virginia, please.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I found it really easy to follow. I think I too am, even though I kind of know, because you've spoken about it before, that like race isn't a thing. It is kind of weird because it feels like there's that missing step, and I think that's again because I'm used to 5e character creation. I'm used to it being those class, race, background, and then generating stuff. I think I think the characters could do with, like, in the actual text, it might just be you haven't put it in yet, but especially for the classes, like a short description of kind of what they are. Because although it's obvious in some respects, if you're not massively familiar with the spy genre to start with, just knowing what the face is. So it's
absolutely.
This kind of character. I think it could do with that, and maybe the same for some of the archetypes, just to help out with things like the gadgety ones in figuring out what the difference is between some of those archetype breakdowns that you get at third level. I just think having that in there might be quicker than trying to figure it out from all of the abilities, because I think if you're not used to 5th edition, lots of the abilities aren't going to make sense anyway, because you're new to role playing.
Yeah,
is the concept of you just have to kind of build off this and do your own thing is, like, it freaks a lot of new people out, I think, and they're like, what do you mean I can do anything with this?
Sure. Yeah,
I think having some text in there that helps people figure out what that kind of means would be really useful.
That will all definitely be in there. Obviously, with this being the beta, I didn't want to kind of shoot my load too early, as it were, with all the material. So this is just the kind of bare bones open game content that I'm providing. So I can make it just kind of freely available on the video and stuff.
In a way, what is interesting is you could literally play the game just with this information.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, you just take this into a pub, sit down, grab a handful of dice, and you could play from this point.
So
I think that's a good design.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Everything that is needed is here. And okay, we have familiarization with 5e, which is going to make it even easier for us.
Yeah.
But
I did like that that you had the example personality traits in, because while I do tend to make up my own, having the inspiration there is very, very helpful to get an idea of what you are intending by these classes and backgrounds.
Yeah, I mean, I won't even be around the bush about it, mate. You'll have seen this in Tales from the Loop. I love how they have structured just that little bit of their character creation. It's like, take this, or make up your own. It's just so light and simple, but it gives you something if you're stuck, or it also gives you inspiration. I love it. I think it works really well.
The make up your own sort of gives the player tacit permission to...
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Well, that leads me on to my next question, actually, beautifully, which is, are you inspired by the choices? This is kind of about character classes themselves and about the abilities they have and stuff. I mean, I got the sense you were, because of listening to you and like having the massive grin on my face about kind of how you're explaining the different classes. Some of them, as you were going through, being spot on, and some of them actually kind of as a precursor to other classes you hadn't quite got to yet. But did they inspire you particularly to play the game?
In general, yeah, like especially the early ones in that list were very much, here is the archetypical blah, here's the archetypical face character, etc. And it was very easy to think of pop culture icons that fit that. And I'm actually surprised that you didn't include that in the descriptions. Like, for example, this is a face character. It was harder to find it with things like the medic, though. I couldn't think of one of those in pop culture. But for the most part, going through these, it was very easy to have a grounding in what they were, at least for me. And with the martial arts tradition, I think the fact that you've got the Shaolin one and the Krav Maga really puts two different styles of cinema, basically, on what you've done.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And with the mixing of styles and flavors, it really expands and makes it, multi-faceted. It is a spy game, but then you start thinking about all the different kinds of spies there are. There's the soldier spies, there's the paper, the white collar type spies, and there's the action hero spies, there's the assassin mercenary spies, and I think it opens it up from people just thinking this is a very specific type of person or type of agent, to, oh wait, there's actually all these different kinds of missions we could do, all these different kinds of characters we could play. And with things like the medic, this is opening up new storylines that aren't being pushed in the main media at the moment. The medic is so important to this team, and I don't think it's a balance mechanical importance, it's a story importance to how important someone being there to keep you going when, you know, you get your hypothermia or you get injected with an unknown toxin, or, you know, all of these different little storylines that could happen in a mission, and it gives so much more option, and you can develop your own trope, your own archetype within that, and I think that was really interesting.
I hadn't thought about that, the medic helping you survive in the wild, as well as the survivalists themselves, but if something does go wrong, you're going to need the medic.
It brought me a little bit of joy, Charlie, when you said, I hadn't thought about spies in the wilderness when it came to Ranger, because I was just like, yeah, like having looked through all of the 5e classes, and I mean, there is some relabeling going on in some instances, but more thematically as well. For me, it was like, you know, well, what's a bard in like a modern setting, or in a spy action movie setting? And I was like, well, it's the face, isn't it? That's the person that is you know, duping the waiter while everyone else is busy, like, you know, storming the kitchen or something. It's like it's those kind of things.
The hat change, wig change, and what I appreciated in your offering is it doesn't feel like, oh, these are all the Shadowrun classes type things, where you've looked at other modern things that's just gone, right, that'll fit. This feels like you've looked at D&D 5e and gone, how does this work? And then you've also looked at spy films and gone, what is missing? And you've put it there, and you've thought of things that I would have forgotten about, but it makes so much sense with like the hacker and then the later artificer type, the gadgeteer. They're so intrinsic, but also I would have forgotten about them.
Yeah, it's been a fun little thought exercise when I've been working on it, and when I've had a film in the background, and I've watched as much spy stuff as I can over the last few months, obviously with kind of chilling out and day job and everything else. And it's fun to look at the TV and see what's on there and go, what are they? And not in so much as just going, oh, James Bond is a soldier, because actually I don't think the characters you get on film, because they have to be, and it is that kind of one person army style thriller a lot of the time. Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a duo, but James Bond is a solo kind of lone wolf type character. Again, Atomic Blonde is very much the same kind of trope and idea. So actually they need to multi-class. So I think Bond is probably a level 10 face, level 10 soldier, multi-class.
What I'm interested in seeing is how parties come together, how groups and teams come together, because we do have a lot of lone wolves within the genre, and they have a team behind them, but they leave them behind and they go and do their lone wolf thing. And it'll be interesting to see how in 5e, where don't split the party is still a rule within D&D that comes up a lot, even though it's a rule that I throw out the window all the time. I always split my parties. I'm a nightmare. As a DM, I love when my party's split. It's always more interesting. Yeah. It always feels more cinematic, because 5 people don't walk around together. No. They don't do it. It just doesn't happen. But so I'm interested in how I can see how mechanically they work together and how themes can tie together, but I'd be interested to see how the individuals come together. And it will vary from group to group and role player to role player, but that's within this genre and within this game is what's going to be interesting to me, is how do we make this work?
Yeah. I am going to move on just the next question, because actually it's still on topic. Do any of the class features that you saw and you read specifically feel wrong somehow, either thematically or mechanically? Like, is there something that just you read and were just quite like, well, kind of, but didn't quite sit right?
Sorry, no, go ahead.
None of the ones that I kind of read as I was looking through feel like necessarily wrong. What I really like is how broad some of them are, in that so like the sport one, it doesn't just lock you into, although it's called track and field, it never at any point feels like it's locked you into that specific thing. I like how all of the kind of character options are really broad in this, and they haven't narrowed you down to, you can be one of 3 specific tropey things with this one like class feature or archetype. And I don't feel, at least for my character, that any of the kind of class features or proficiencies kind of force you into a box.
That's cool. That's good.
Which is kind of fun, because I feel like there's a lot of that in 5e, in that if you play a particular class, you're in this box. If you're a bard, everyone's kind of got that picture of what a bard is, and you're kind of very, very limited by certain classes.
Paladin is another one. That's
Paladin.
Everyone always knows what a paladin is, and
paladin or cleric characters as well. I find that people tend to shove them into boxes, whereas like rogues and fighters get to be possibly several other things. Then lots of, I think it's more like the martial classes and the support classes that tend to just be boxed away, because that's all their abilities kind of allow them to do, unless you start really stretching roleplay. But I feel like all of the features so far that I've seen for my character at least allow you to kind of pick several directions to go with, which is fun.
I
it's
think
a lot less limiting.
That it's in part the problem of the legacy of D&D coming from the war game, coming from their origin where you had 4 types. You had elf, fighter, I forget what the other ones were.
Elf and dwarf were classes, right?
Yeah. Like 4 things. And they had very specific roles, and you had to have all 4 because that was how everything was balanced. It slightly changed and got away from that. And now we've got this where you've renamed things, reshaped it, and you've kept the good things, but you haven't brought some of that baggage that closes people off, that limits, in my opinion, from what I've seen. I need to take a closer look, but I agree with Virginia in that you have an openness to all of these things. Just because I'm a face and I have an ability called themes, that applies to so many different situations, and I can take it in lots of different ways.
Yeah, that's the idea.
So, going through the soldier stuff, the only thing that felt iffy or wrong was I was looking through what I get coming up, and so I picked the assault rifle to take as the the item I have. It was either pistol and shield or assault rifle. But then when I pick assault as the archetype, it gives me a bonus to heavy shield and pistol. Right. I get which. That might just be the name assault making me think it was that kind of thing. But thematically, I expected to be able to get a bonus with the assault rifle when doing that. But aside from that, thematically, all the class features I've seen so far are spot on.
Nice, thank you. Where's my other little bit now? So I'm going to skip the do your characters feel complete right now because we still have a little bit of equipment and such to do. But I maybe just thinking quickly thematically, is there anything you feel is missing? We talked a lot, I love that we talked a lot about backgrounds and ideals and stuff like that, because I feel like it often is quite an overlooked part of tabletop RPG gaming, kind of from the legacy of it in previous editions and stuff. But so I love that. But yeah, is there anything that you feel like you don't have right now that you really need to know, or that you think would be a great addition?
I feel like it's fairly on theme in terms of like, even from the name of the game is really direct at what it is. And I think as soon as you start looking at lots of this character building stuff, it's that you very quickly get the idea of what it is. And I think the broadness in the backgrounds and the classes that you can choose and what they allow you to do kind of helps push that, because even though it's broader, and it feels like it should kind of dilute that theme, you very quickly start recognizing character tropes and archetypes from within the kind of spy, crime, mercenary genre. So I don't think I've come across anything that I think whether it's lacking in theme, because I think it allows you to draw so many connections to bits of it.
One thing I might suggest, which kind of ties into, I think Oz mentioned, where you didn't have those examples of this, is you might consider this to be James Bond, for example.
Yeah.
One thing you could offer is a mediography. A list of films that might provide inspiration points for the types of characters, for the types of themes. But in a way, by not naming characters, by naming particular movies or particular TV shows or something, it's more open. Whereas if you say this is James Bond, people go, oh, okay, I know exactly what this character is. This is all a face can ever be.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, at the beginning of the can I?
Oh, go ahead.
At the beginning of the class section in the 5e core book, it does have a small chart with a list of the classes and a short description. Like a barbarian is a fierce warrior of primitive background who can enter a battle rage, and then has some mechanical stuff. But if you just want to know, what is a bard? I've never heard of a bard before, or a cleric, because you tell people what a cleric is, and you have to start using words like priest and all this kind of thing, and that gives you a basic idea of what it means in this game.
Yeah.
So I think just I think you're right, Charlie. Maybe the best way to do that would be the example tropes. The example pop culture hooks.
And the exciting thing as well is because you've taken it from a genre that a lot of people are obviously going to be interested in. When they see that you've mentioned, what they might think is a semi-obscure movie, they'll be like, oh, I'd forgotten about that. I love that. I'm so glad this is in here, and it'll set the neurons firing, or at least that's what I would hope the experience would be. Because when I've seen mediographies and things before, that's always been like, I'd forgotten about that song, or I hadn't thought about that. That's actually a cool idea. What if I mix this with this? Or I've never heard of that. I might go and check that out.
I think from a GM standpoint, that's really fun as well, because being able to be like, I want to play this thing, but I don't really know what I want to do, because I know I'm suffering with that at the minute because I want to do a post-apocalyptic thing. So having a book go, well, you don't really know what characters you want, or from a GM's point in terms of like what kind of game you want to run. If you've got like a list of films and media and television shows that you can just go and watch to kind of help you build something, that's really nice from a GM point of view. And I think it probably does cement themes even further, especially if there's a particular style of like spy stuff that you want to push with the core book.
I think it also it also says to your players and your GMs, it's okay if you're not original. It's like, okay, these are tropes we know is fun, and it's okay, and you have permission to mess with these things. These are not secret things either.
Yeah.
And you get an interesting mix then between someone's real life of how do I take a place that I know really well and put a spy story in it, or how do I take a place that I've always wanted to go and put a spy story in it, and then I watched that movie last week and I really liked that setting. I'm going to steal that environment, or I'm going to steal that scenario, and I'm going to shift it. And it gives permission to play, I think, but it gives permission for you to use tools that are there that you don't have to go, I can't do that. That was in James Bond.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do that. That's fine.
And I think, like newer gamers and newer GMs are going to want that kind of stuff, because I think like every D&D character trope is like the fighter that drinks too much at the beginning of the adventure, or the bard that only performs and that's all they kind of do. And I think it will help people build characters that are multifaceted, which is what you give the tools for in the rules. In that the idea to find a trope and not just think of it as I'm just James Bond, which means I flirt with people and I shoot at things.
Yeah.
So if you actually watch James Bond's like in the films, there is a lot more to him and a lot more to his character than just being a spy. Like he's got stuff going on. There's a whole, if you look into the complicated issue with like Moneypenny, there's a whole thing going on there that definitely plays into how he acts with people.
Yeah.
Not just in a spy setting. So I think being able to be like, you can be tropey, but also look at the tropes and see what else is going on apart from just they're a spy, they shoot things or they steal stuff. Or
linking into that, what maybe you could add that would be maybe in the character process is to consider that double life. If you are a spy with a double life, what is your other life? What is your cover story or your real life? Do you consider it your office day job, your cover life with a child and a wife or whatever the scenario is, or is that actually your real life and this is your secret life? Where is the boundary? And just to give like that reminder, you probably have more than one life. And I know there's cover stories as part of the mechanics of some of the classes, but I kind of got to the bottom of it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm probably not going to have my real name. I'm going to have a fake name because I'm a spy.
So I mean, I did try to put that into this with the husband, and I mean the game plays up for that because we don't have real names, we just have our code names. I'm
going to take this, I'm going to steal it, and I'm going to use it because I think it's a fantastic idea to actually link into your backgrounds.
I think all characters should kind of have that. all players should have something where they can decide what that is, because I think that's also a thing for the GM, that the GM can note down. Because if you've got a child who's in school, what happens when, you know, you get found out or uncovered, and your child or other half or sister gets wrapped up in it? What happens if they show up somewhere where you're doing a thing?
That was a massive part of The Bodyguard, which the BBC did recently.
Yeah.
That was basically like most of the plot line was about his relationship with work and his private life.
A lot of the plot of Spooks, the TV show, they always had double lives and they were trying to balance it. It is a lot of the genre, and also at the same time, it's okay to have the option of, I'm just a soldier, but then you're not just a soldier because you've been on squads before. And it's like with my character, with the suggestion of having that war criminal that she's after. Like, there's a life before this life.
Yeah.
And there are lies and secrets before this life. And I think, you know, half the drama is the convergence of that moment of, we have this mission, but I also have all this other stuff going on. And that's the RP thing, isn't it? Is I'm a hero, but I have everything going on. But it doesn't need to be a full-blown backstory. It's something you could build and add to as secrets and lies come out in game as well.
Yeah.
And I think... Sorry, go on, Oz.
I don't know if you want to have it as part of the game, but I did imagine that... No, I don't know if you want to have it as a mechanical thing, but I can imagine a situation where a group just does badly at a spy thing and gets caught on camera or something like that. And then that little mistakes like that just add up to your secret identity being found out, and then that being a character moment for you, being able to suggest... these people now know about you. What are you going to do about that? Yeah. Do you have to go on a mission to take that information away from them? Or do you have to go and do an escort quest with your family, for example? I don't know.
Yeah. Escort mission.
I like the idea that, like, some spies will have multiple cover stories, because you might have lived in this place for 5 years and been married, but then you disappeared, your death was faked, and then you start a whole new life in a completely other country. And I also like the idea of the possibility of the team having secrets from each other involving their background. What happens if, you know, at one point they worked for opposite agencies, and the husband of one player who was killed as retribution against an op they caused was actually carried out by that person in the team having no idea? What happens when someone finds out the details of that mission because someone's talking about, oh, this one time this horrible thing happens? You get a nice character bonding moment, and then there's realization. Because I think those are fun things in the kind of spy genre as well. It's when those secrets come out and you find out all of these little weird connections between things, and that one event that someone did affected the life of some other agent 3 years later who they had no connection to at the time. It's all those little... It's that whole feeling of like a network of things happening behind the scenes, and it's almost trigger stuff.
Almost how I would do it if I was a GM and I wasn't given it in the rules would be for each person to tell me like 3 things not to do, not given away by their background or class, like 3 tidbits. And then as a GM, I would probably figure out how things threaded together from that. I'd see, you've got a wife. This person once did this. Okay. Tie that up, right? That's done. And then start picking it together like that. So even the players themselves don't get the whole story, because as you were saying, that's the whole thing, Virginia, is we're in this web. We're in this
everything's tangled up.
It does put a lot more kind of forethought on the GM's side of things, but I always liked the character creation thing where you'd all, you know, turn to the left and make up a secret between you two. But if the GM just had all the information and just made his own web, or made their own web, then that would be amazing.
Well, I mean, I think it would come down to the GM and what they're comfortable doing and how they want to work with players. But yeah, I think having something in there that's a seed point or an option that gets the players thinking about it, gets the GM thinking about it, would be really cool.
This is why I reached out to GMs, because you get some amazing discussions.
I've done this in game when I ran Titan's Grave. One player had this really amazing weapon that was stolen off him when somebody attacked him and his family. And another player was like, I stole something from someone and really regret the horrible thing that I did. And I linked it up so that one day in combat, he pulls out this gun that he never really used, but he really needed it in that moment. And the other player was like, hold on a minute, I recognize that. That was, wait, you're the same person? And there was a whole thing for about 3 sessions about, we have to do this thing, but I don't know how I feel about you because you've saved my life before. But you also kind of ruined it, and that's how I'm here. It's like having that tension between players, and I think you will get that naturally if you're kind of doing ops missions, and that you're all relying on each other, and it reflects that kind of high stress thing of what happens when one person has screwed up, whether it's right now or in the past, and now it's affecting you.
That actually brings into light another trope, and that is that often each character may have a nemesis who is either another spy or just like an organization that they've screwed over or something like that. And having them come out is often quite fun because the other players may not know of this person, so it's like an introduction to that character's background. Secrets come out.
A way you could do it is when you go through that bonds, traits, etc., as maybe have, for example, you could have like a secrets and a lies section, and they could choose from specific secrets or make up their own, and then choose from specific lies and make up their own, or something of their relationship. Or so, and then you can use them as either obscure things that never come up, as sometimes background traits and things don't, or if something really hooks in and it makes sense, then you use it in that way. And if it's there, it's always going to be playing in the player's mind. They'll still remember that they made that.
And they'll draw connections to things that maybe weren't there because they've got this secret that they don't want their other half to find out they're a spy. And then the second that somebody starts blackmailing them to unveil their identity, they automatically think it's to do with that, and it could be to do with something completely different. Like players draw connections where there aren't any, which is great fun for either making them super nervous and like making them dig for stuff, or it just really hooks them into the game, and you can then write that in, because the second you're like, oh, this person seems to be really latching on to this idea, you can kind of make that a thing.
And that kind of double life thing is very much true, and the trope, or like you're saying, of the kind of more hard-boiled kind of I guess more modern spy films and stuff and media like that. It's like, who am I really, and how does that conflict with my life, and how is that going to affect my kids or my partner or whoever. And there's again the trope of the kind of the films that have been about retired intelligence agents or assassins or whatever. I think it's a Netflix show or a film that I saw an advert for the other day.
Like Red.
It was like Red again, but with just like one guy. But it is that kind of, if your spy life catches up with you, or if you're compromised, it means more than just you've failed the mission. And I love that about it.
That's the thing that's unique to the genre, is heroes have that comeuppance. Heroes also have that consequence of, if I piss off the wrong dragon, they're going to swoop on my village and burn it down. But this is always for a spy. Always for a spy. I remember I once looked at the MI5 application form, and it explicitly says you do not tell anyone that you've applied.
Yeah.
And so from the beginning, you're being told, there's a wall here, and that wall is always there. And that's the interesting thing. The missions are interesting and exciting, and speedboat chases and any of that sort of stuff is really exciting. But the intrinsically human interesting thing for me, anyway, in a spy game is that double life, the walls, the secrets.
Yeah.
How that is going to weigh on you, and how it's going to push you, and how it could break you so quickly.
I mean, as soon as we started talking about this stuff, I did think maybe I've assassinated someone else's, someone that someone else knows in this group, either a workplace thing, or a family member, or a friend, or something like that. Just because the character lends to it, so I can easily see that building up quickly.
Yeah.
I think it's good for GMs as well, because you then get that break away from just everything as a mission. It's not just one mission after another, but these things have repercussions in the real world. You might have done something with your team that was, maybe it was assassinating, a diplomatic advisor or some world leader. How do you deal with that when you then have to go home and you watching your friends and your family deal with those things and the social impact of what you might be doing behind the scenes.
Downtime becomes an adventure.
Yeah. And you also have the role play scenes between you and those other people in your life you don't know. And all of the awkwardness and the weirdness that comes with that, and how do you deal with that? It's a nice way to break up an adventure. So it's not just mission after mission you never see the real world consequence, but you're forced to, when you step back into your normal like cover life. How do those events, especially if you're playing at like large scale plots, how have they started to impact the actual world around you and the people that you care about and your cover job and things like that? Because what happens when your cover job no longer exists because of something that you've done?
Or like the one I was reminded of is in Avengers Infinity War, where Hawkeye just goes home. Nobody knew he had this family. And I mean, it was obviously put in to humanize them and also allow this story beat, but it allowed a character to comment on everything with this outsider's view, like you're saying, Virginia. And yeah, I just wanted to point out like an example that was in the back of my head.
Yeah. All of that is a revelation. It's made me really think about the kind of background stuff a little bit deeper, and inserting some of that stuff. It's definitely something I want to look into, and maybe even further for next week before we try again. I should wrap things up though, because we need to go and let Charlie eat, and I can literally hear my dinner being made. So I should go and help. So yeah, but thank you very much, guys, for coming in and having a go at this first time in beta. There has been some incredible comments from you guys so far, and I've already got like 2 pages of notes of stuff to figure out and develop from there. So yeah. I'll just do a really quick thank you and a really quick plug for this, basically, which is that we're looking to get the Spy game to Kickstarter for the first half of this year. And part of that will obviously be raising the funds, getting the production ready. But my plan is to still be in beta and develop throughout the Kickstarter, and then also out the back end, so that we'll have something as a much more public beta if and when we fund. So that's the aim. If you're watching back or if you're in chat now, make sure you check us out at blackcatsgaming.com. And there's a really quick and easy sign up to hear any news you want to hear about the Spy game coming up. So Charlie, Oz, Virginia, thank you so much for being with me this afternoon and into the evening here in the UK. Now it's dark, it's definitely the evening.
Thanks for having us, Sam.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great.
That's quite all right. We've got tags on all your names and stuff, so reach out to us on Twitter. You can reach Black Cats Gaming on Facebook. There is on the little screen, and follow Black Cats on Twitter as well. You can always reach out to me at RPG Webby. I would love for you to let me know what you thought as well on Twitter and get a little conversation going and stuff. So I think that is it for us this evening. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.